The narcissist laughed and betrayed you. Now they cry before God. Have you ever wondered why the narcissist in your life laughed while they betrayed you? Why they seemed to get away with hurting you without any consequences? Have you found yourself questioning why they were even part of your life in the first place? Was it just a cruel twist of fate? Or is there a deeper reason behind it all? Maybe their actions have affected your relationships, your trust in others, or even your faith. You've cried, you've prayed, and yet it seemed like God was silent. But what if I told you that God saw everything? That He is not only aware of what they did, but is also preparing a divine turnaround. In this story, we will uncover the secret behind this powerful principle, how God repays, how He turns the tables, and why the very ones who mocked and betrayed you will one day cry before Him. So if you're ready to step into healing, revelation, and victory, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Be Edified Daily, where we dive deep into biblical truths that uplift, encourage, and strengthen your walk with God. Now let's begin. Number 1. God saw what they did, and He will repay. The Bible tells us in Romans 12:19, "Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, 'It is mine to avenge, I will repay,' says the Lord." This isn't just a comforting verse, it's a divine principle that has helped countless people find peace in the midst of betrayal. You see, what people really want in life is justice, peace, and restoration. They want to see fairness, for wrongs to be made right. But God's justice doesn't always work in the way we expect. Sometimes He allows certain people in our lives, even narcissists, to test, refine, and ultimately shape us into who we're meant to be. Have you ever considered that God might be using their betrayal as part of your preparation? This mindset is crucial. It's the difference between being consumed by bitterness and walking in freedom. Knowing that God will repay allows you to release the burden of revenge. When you try to take justice into your own hands, you only exhaust yourself. But when you trust God's timing, you make room for His perfect justice. So, what should you do when people are acting the wrong way? First, don't react in anger. Instead, step back and remind yourself that their actions are not going unnoticed by God. Second, guard your heart. Don't let their cruelty change who you are. Third, pray for wisdom. Ask God to show you how to respond in a way that honors Him. This principle also helps you to appreciate the difficult people in your life, not because of the pain they caused to win, but because of what that pain is producing in you. Think about Joseph in the Bible. His own brothers betrayed him, selling him into slavery. They laughed at his suffering, thinking they had destroyed his future. But what happened? God turned it all around. Joseph rose to power in Egypt, and when his brothers stood before him, trembling in fear, he told them, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." The positive aspect of Joseph's story? His betrayal led him to a position where he could save an entire nation, including the very brothers who wronged him. The negative aspect? It took years of hardship, imprisonment, and suffering before he saw the fulfillment of God's plan. But through it all, God never forgot Joseph, and He won't forget you either. C.S. Lewis once said, "We are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us. We are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be." That's the challenge, trusting that even in our suffering, God is still working for our good. So the next time you feel the sting of betrayal, remember this principle. God saw what they did, and He will repay. Let go of resentment, trust His justice, and keep walking forward. Number 2. They laughed when they hurt you, but God saw it all. In those moments you may have wondered, does God even see this? Does He care? Why does He allow them to mock me while I suffer? If you've ever asked those questions, you're not alone. People want justice. They want to know that the evil done to them will not go unpunished. And the good news? That God sees everything. He is not blind to their cruelty, and He will not let it go unanswered. This principle has helped many people move forward instead of being trapped in bitterness. When you understand that God sees and keeps account of every wrong done against you, it frees you from the burden of trying to fight your own battles. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone, because God Himself will defend you. The importance of this mindset cannot be overstated. If you live seeking revenge or waiting to see your enemies suffer, you are still bound by them. But when you release it into God's hands, you walk in freedom. Jesus himself taught this when he said in Matthew 5:44, "But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." That doesn't mean you tolerate abuse. It means you trust God to deal with them better than you ever could. Knowing this truth is one thing, but doing it, that's where the real challenge is. When people are acting the wrong way, don't let their evil change your character. Keep your heart pure. Keep your integrity. Keep walking in righteousness. Their laughter today will not last forever. This principle even helps you appreciate those who hurt you, not because of their actions, but because of what their actions are producing in you. They thought they were breaking you, but they were actually positioning you for something greater. Think about Hannah in the Bible. She was barren, and her rival Peninnah mocked her relentlessly. Peninnah laughed at her, tormented her, and tried to make her feel worthless. But what did Hannah do? She didn't fight back. She took her pain to God. And in the end, God blessed her with Samuel, one of the greatest prophets in Israel's history. 1 Samuel 1:6-20. The positive aspect of Hannah's story? Her suffering pushed her into deeper prayer and reliance on God. The negative aspect? She had to endure years of ridicule before she saw her breakthrough. But in the end, God had the final say. C.S. Lewis once said, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." Could it be that the very pain they laughed at is preparing you for something greater? The next time you see them mock you, remember this principle. God saw it all. You don't need to fight back. You don't need to prove anything. Just keep walking and let God handle the rest. 3. They betrayed you, but God will judge them. And yet here's the reality. God saw it. He saw the lies, the manipulation, and the deception. He saw how they used you, how they discarded you, and how they acted as if your pain didn't matter. But here's the question. If God sees it, why doesn't he do something about it right away? People want justice, closure, and restoration. They want to know that their suffering is not in vain. But the truth is, God's judgment does not always come on our timeline. He allows certain things to unfold, not because he is indifferent, but because he is working on something greater than we can see. This principle has helped many people overcome the bitterness that betrayal brings. When you understand that God is the ultimate judge, you stop wasting your energy trying to prove your innocence or make people see the truth. You rest, knowing that at the right time, God will expose every lie, bring justice, and restore what was stolen from you. This mindset is essential. If you live consumed by the betrayal, you will remain a prisoner to it. But when you trust that God is your defender, you free yourself from the need for revenge. That's why knowing and doing this is so important, because your healing is not found in their downfall, but in your ability to move forward. What should you do when people betray you? First, stop chasing explanations. The truth is, even if they told you why they did what they did, it wouldn't erase the pain. Second, release them to God. He saw it, and he will deal with them in his way and in his time. Third, keep your heart pure. Don't allow their actions to change who you are. This principle even helps you appreciate those who betrayed you, not because of their actions, but because of what they revealed. They showed you who they truly are. They exposed what was hidden. And in doing so, they freed you from people who were never meant to walk with you into your next season. Think about Judas and Jesus. Judas was one of the 12 disciples, someone who walked with Jesus, saw his miracles, and heard his teachings. And yet, for 30 pieces of silver, he betrayed him. Matthew 20 season. But here's the powerful truth. Judas's betrayal did not stop Jesus' mission. In fact, it played a role in fulfilling it. The positive aspect of this story, Judas' betrayal led to the crucifixion, which ultimately brought salvation to the world. The negative aspect, Judas, instead of repenting, ended his own life in despair. Betrayal can break a person, but for those who trust in God, it can also propel them into their destiny. C.S. Lewis once said, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." You may not be able to undo the betrayal, but you can decide what you do with it. So the next time you feel the weight of betrayal, remember this principle: God will judge them. You don't need to expose them, fight them, or make them pay. God will handle it, and your only job is to heal, grow, and move forward. God will turn the tables. They will cry before Him. Have you ever wondered what happens when those who laughed at your pain suddenly find themselves in a position where they can no longer escape their own suffering? The tables turn. The same people who mocked you, betrayed you, and thought they had won, they will one day cry before God. But here's the real question: when that moment comes, how will you respond? Will you rejoice in their downfall, or will you realize that God's justice is bigger than personal revenge? People want vindication. They want to see their enemies humbled, to know that the pain they endured was not forgotten. And the truth is, God is a God of justice. He does not allow wickedness to prosper forever. At the right time, He will turn the tables in a way that no one can deny. This principle has helped many people let go of bitterness because they realize something powerful. God's justice is often poetic. He doesn't just punish. He reveals the truth, exposes lies, and makes sure that those who did wrong come face to face with their actions. This mindset is crucial, because if you don't understand it, you might waste your energy waiting for the wrong kind of justice. God's justice is not about making them suffer the way you suffered. It's about divine correction, revelation, and restoration. When the tables turn, it's not for you to celebrate their downfall, but for you to step into your victory. Knowing and doing this is important, because when God turns the tables, you must be in the right position. If you are still bitter, still angry, still seeking revenge, then you are not truly free. But when you trust in God's justice, you can walk in peace, knowing that He is in control. So what should you do when people act the wrong way? First, don't wish for their destruction. Instead, pray that they come to true repentance. Second, focus on your growth. The best response to betrayal is to keep becoming everything God created you to be. Third, trust the process. God doesn't just repay, He restores. This principle also helps you appreciate the people who hurt you. Why? Because their actions positioned you for something greater. If they hadn't walked away, if they hadn't mistreated you, you might never have sought God the way you do now. Sometimes the people who hurt us are unknowingly pushing us into our destiny. Think about Haman and Mordecai in the Bible. Esther 6-7. Haman plotted to destroy Mordecai and the Jews, building gallows to hang him. He was powerful, arrogant, and thought he had won. But what happened? God turned the tables. The same gallows that Haman built for Mordecai became the instrument of his own downfall. The positive aspect of this story? Mordecai never had to fight his own battle. God handled it for him. The negative aspect? Haman realized too late that his pride and wickedness had led him to destruction. C.S. Lewis once said, "When we lose one blessing, another is often most unexpectedly given in its place." Could it be that God is preparing to turn the tables in your favor while you're still grieving over what was lost? So the next time you wonder if justice will ever come, remember this principle. God will turn the tables, and they will cry before Him. You don't need to fight, chase, or prove anything. Just keep walking in obedience and watch what God does. 5. God will avenge you. Let Him handle it. People want justice, closure, and retribution. They want to see those who hurt them pay for what they did. But here's the truth. When you take matters into your own hands, you remove it from God's hands. And when God is the one handling it, justice is perfect, complete, and leaves no room for regret. This principle has helped so many people break free from bitterness. When you realize that God is your avenger, you stop obsessing over payback and start focusing on your own healing. It shifts your mindset from victim to victor. This mindset is crucial. If you don't understand it, you will live in frustration, waiting for karma instead of trusting God. But if you grasp this truth, you will walk in peace, knowing that every wrong done to you has already been noted in heaven. Nothing is hidden from God. Knowing and doing this is important because the way you handle betrayal will determine how far you go in life. If you carry bitterness, it will weigh you down. But if you release it to God, you make room for greater blessings. The way you respond to injustice reveals the condition of your heart. What should you do when people act the wrong way? First, resist the urge to retaliate. Revenge is a temporary fix that brings no true peace. Second, pray for God's justice. His justice is not just about punishment, it's about exposing the truth and bringing restoration. Third, move forward. Your future is too valuable to be wasted on trying to fix the past. This principle even helps you appreciate those who hurt you. Why? Because their actions, as painful as they were, taught you something. They revealed who they truly are, but more importantly, they revealed who you truly are. You are stronger, wiser, and closer to God because of what you endured. Think about Joseph and his brothers. Genesis 50:20. His own brothers betrayed him, sold him into slavery, and thought they had erased him from their lives. But years later, when Joseph became the second most powerful man in Egypt, the tables turned. His brothers were at his mercy. The positive aspect of this story? Joseph didn't seek revenge. He understood that what they meant for evil, God turned for good. The negative aspect? His brothers lived in fear, realizing too late that their actions could not be undone. C.S. Lewis once said, "Getting over a painful experience is much like crossing monkey bars. You have to let go at some point in order to move forward." Could it be that the only thing keeping you stuck is your refusal to let go and let God handle it? So the next time you feel tempted to fight back, remember this principle. God will avenge you. Let him handle it. He sees, he knows, and at the right time, justice will be served. 6. God is preparing something better for you. Have you ever lost something you thought you couldn't live without, only to later realize it was never meant for you? What if the pain you went through was actually making room for something greater? What if what you thought was a loss was actually a setup for a better future? People want security, love, and success. They want to know that their pain was not in vain and that something good will come from their suffering. And the truth is, God never takes something away without preparing something better. But here's the catch. You have to be willing to let go. This principle has helped so many people move forward after betrayal. When you understand that God is always working behind the scenes, you stop holding on to what He's trying to remove. You stop begging for relationships that were never meant to last. You stop trying to fix what God has already decided to replace. This mindset is crucial because if you don't embrace it, you will spend your life grieving over the past instead of preparing for the future. But when you trust that God is always leading you toward something better, you walk in faith, knowing that your best days are still ahead. Knowing and doing this is important because sometimes what we think we want is far less than what God has planned. Have you ever looked back and thanked God for not giving you what you once prayed for? His ways are higher than ours, and when we trust Him, we begin to see setbacks as setups for something greater. What should you do when people act the wrong way? First, stop trying to force them to stay. If someone betrayed you, walked away, or treated you unfairly, trust that God is redirecting your life. Second, prepare for what's next. Instead of staying stuck in disappointment, ask God to show you what He has ahead. Third, walk in expectation. If you believe that God is preparing something better, you won't waste time chasing what's already behind you. This principle also helps you appreciate what you lost. Because when you see how God turns pain into purpose, you start to realize that everything that left your life had a reason. Some people were only meant to be part of your journey, not your destination. Think about Job in the Bible, Job 42. He lost everything, his family, his wealth, his health. It seemed like his life was over, but what happened? God restored him. And not only did He restore him, but He gave him double for his trouble. Job didn't just get back what he lost, he received even greater blessings. The positive aspect of this story? Job remained faithful, and in the end he saw God's goodness in a way he never had before. The negative aspect? His friends doubted him, and he had to endure a season of suffering before his breakthrough came. C.S. Lewis once said, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind." Could it be that the very thing you are mourning today is the thing God is using to make space for your next blessing. So the next time you feel tempted to hold on to the past, remember this principle: God is preparing something better for you. Let go of what was and step into what will be. Your story is not over. Your best days are still ahead. 7. Walk into your victory and let them cry before God. Have you ever felt like the people who hurt you seem to be winning while you are struggling to move forward? Why does it seem like they get away with everything while you are left picking up the pieces? But what if I told you that your greatest revenge is not fighting back, it's moving forward into the victory God has for you? People want justice, closure, and peace. They want to know that those who betrayed them will one day feel the weight of their actions. But here's the truth: nothing exposes people more than your success. When you heal, grow, and walk into everything God has for you, it speaks louder than any words of revenge ever could. When you realize that your victory is not about proving people wrong, but about stepping into God's best for you, you stop looking back. You stop waiting for apologies. You stop waiting for validation. Instead, you start walking in the confidence that God is your defender. This mindset is crucial. If you don't embrace it, you will waste years waiting for others to acknowledge the pain they caused. But when you understand that God is your vindicator, you stop living for their regret and start living for your reward. Knowing and doing this is important because your future is too valuable to be held hostage by the past. Some people don't deserve your attention anymore. They don't deserve your energy, your thoughts, or your time. The moment you shift your focus from them to what God has ahead, you will see doors open that you never imagined. What should you do when people act the wrong way? First, stop chasing closure. Some people will never admit what they did, and that's okay. God saw it, and He will handle it. Second, focus on your growth. Use the pain they caused as fuel to become better, stronger, and wiser. Third, keep moving forward. The best revenge is success. When they see you thriving while they are left to deal with their own choices, that's when regret will set in. This principle even helps you appreciate what happened. Because when you see how far you've come, you realize that their betrayal was the push you needed to walk into your purpose. They thought they were breaking you, but they were actually positioning you for something greater. Think about Haman and Mordecai. Esther 7:9-10. Haman plotted against Mordecai, convinced that he could destroy him. He even built gallows to have Mordecai executed. But what happened? The very trap Haman set for Mordecai became his own downfall. Mordecai was honored, and Haman was humiliated before everyone. The positive aspect of this story? Mordecai didn't waste time fighting Haman. He stayed faithful to God, and in the end he was elevated. The negative aspect? Haman let his pride and hatred consume him, and in the end, he destroyed himself. C.S. Lewis once said, "Don't let your happiness depend on something you may lose." Could it be that the only thing keeping you from your victory is your attachment to what they did? What if letting go is the key to your breakthrough? So, the next time you feel tempted to dwell on their actions, remember this principle: walk into your victory and let them cry before God. Their regret is not your concern. Your destiny is. Keep moving forward and watch how God elevates you in front of those who tried to bring you down. Conclusion. Have you ever looked back at a painful season and realized it was actually the turning point for something greater? What if everything you went through wasn't meant to break you, but to build you? Through this journey, we've uncovered deep truths. God saw what they did, and He will repay. They laughed when they hurt you, but God saw it all. They betrayed you, but God will judge them. God will turn the tables, and they will cry before Him. He will avenge you, and you must let Him handle it. God is preparing something better for you, and your only task is to walk into your victory and let them deal with the consequences of their own actions. People want justice, peace, and restoration. They want to know that their suffering was not in vain. And the truth is, when you trust God, you will always come out victorious. This principle has helped so many people find healing. When you understand that God is your defender, you stop chasing revenge and start walking in purpose. This mindset is crucial. If you don't embrace it, you will stay trapped in anger, waiting for people to acknowledge what they did. But when you surrender the pain to God, you step into freedom, joy, and unexpected blessings. Knowing and doing this is important because your future is far too valuable to waste on bitterness. Let God handle them, and you focus on becoming the person He has called you to be. What should you do moving forward? First, release them. You don't need an apology to heal. Second, focus on your purpose. Stop waiting for their regret, move forward into your destiny. Third, trust God's timing. He will restore what you lost and lift you higher than before. Think about Joseph in the Bible, Genesis 50:20. His brothers betrayed him, sold him into slavery, and left him for dead. But in the end, he became the second most powerful man in Egypt. And when his brothers stood before him, terrified of what he might do, he didn't seek revenge. He saw God's greater plan. The positive aspect of this story, Joseph's faithfulness led to his elevation. The negative aspect, his brothers suffered the consequences of their actions. C.S. Lewis once said, "Getting over a painful experience is much like crossing monkey bars. You have to let go at some point in order to move forward." So what will you do now? Will you stay stuck in what they did, or will you step into what God has for you? Thank you for walking through this journey. If this series blessed you, like this video and subscribe to be edified daily. Keep growing, keep believing, and remember, your best days are still ahead.